Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to do my Dale Hollow tournament breakdown video. And I've actually combined day one and day two together. And when I do that, it's probably a bad thing because there's just not enough fish catches. And obviously, if you kept up with the tournament, you saw that day one was a big bomb for me. In fact, I only caught 2 fish. And 15 minutes to go in that day, I didn't even have a fish in the boat. So I figured something out at the end of the day, which we're going to get into pretty quick here. But it was a really, really bad day. So yeah, we're combining it because there's just not enough fish catches to do a standalone day one video. But let's talk a little bit about Dale Hollow, my approach to practice and, leading up to the tournament. So, my main goal when I went to Dale Hollow this time was to, really practice what I call multi-dimensionally, where I'm really trying a lot of different techniques. I'm not just focused on a handful of different, tactics. I'm trying everything in my rod box. I'm going out there and I'm trying things that I don't think will work. Just trying to find something a little bit different and to figure out exactly what type of techniques are going to work. Okay, because a lot of tournaments that are on fisheries that I know very well, I tend to get a little bit one-dimensional. The same thing happened at Harris Chain, where I really just used a handful of rods in my rod box during practice, and in those situations, you generally run into problems, unless you just happen to be dialed in on the one thing. So Dale, I wanted to go out there and try everything. And there was some things as soon as I got there, I had a bunch of topwater rods rigged up, whopper plopper, buzzbait, a toad, the new goat toads from Z-Man. I even had one of the leapfrogs tied on. So I was rigged up for a lot of different stuff, but when I got there, water temp was, low 50s to mid, maybe touching the high 50s. And so I knew that those techniques just were not going to play a big role, matched with, the other conditions like the super clear water and the weather that we were getting. But anyways, after practice, tried a lot of different stuff, but the only things that really ended up working were, number one, bottom bouncing tactics around grass and pea gravel points. And those are together because the grass was growing on the pea gravel points, and I had really got a good bite Carolina rigging those pea gravel points, and also throwing that new SMH shaky head worm and jig head from Z-Man. I was really using that to kind of live scope, and once I saw a fish in the grass, I'd cast to him with that and catch him that way. So that was one pattern. And then the only other pattern that I really had was a live scope pattern, fishing out deep, which is ultimately what most of the guys in the top 10 and probably the top 25 ended up doing in this tournament. They're just out there in those pockets and those drains, and looking for specific fish and making exact casts to them. So that was the other thing, but I really only had one good day of practice doing that, throwing like a Ned Meeky or even a big heavy chatterbait, something like that. I had one really good day. It seemed easy to catch a big bag, but then after that, I couldn't duplicate it. The area that I caught those fish in, that had kind of evaporated. There was no more bait, no more fish. So that wasn't really a pattern that I wanted to fish during the tournament. So really I was left with just the Carolina rig and throwing the SMH worms, which I'm cool with. Fishing around grass is something I know well. And so that was my game plan going into the first day. But as you're about to find out, I didn't stick with that game plan, and I really just started fishing scared. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I was running around like crazy and just making terrible decisions. So let's start the video. Let's check this out. All right, so again, this is the end of the day. This is like, my weigh-in was 3:15 Central, and this was probably right at 2:55. And I just run into this creek and decided to pick up a break bait, rock crawler, and wanted to go over here and just put water. And I got tired of that. I think I lost the rock crawler. And then it just kind of dawned on me. I was looking at my analytics and I was looking like those short pockets on the main river remind me of the pattern that I've learned on those other rigs where I'm running. Just very small pockets off the main river. And those pockets tend to hold some residential fish, some residential largemouth that move in to that pocket from, Rocky Bluffs or the deeper areas. That's just their home. There's not a lot of fish in those pockets, but there's a handful, and usually they're decent sized fish. And as I got there, I ended up picking up the swim jig right away, but then very, very quickly, I think I make like 1 or 2 casts with the swim jig. Very, very quickly, I switch over to the spinner bait. And the first thing I noticed when I got to this first pocket was obviously that mud line. Guys were starting to make the run back to weigh in, so there's a lot of chop from all the wakes. See, I'm putting the swim jig down, just didn't feel right. Picking up the Z-Man sling blades. This is a 1/2 ounce version with the Colorado and willow leaf blades, and this is kind of a big moment. At this point of the day, I was like, man, I'm gonna zero. But then, as soon as I got into this pocket, I was like, I actually think I might be onto something. Like, it was the first time things started to click in my head. So I think it's right here. I end up getting a bite. Yep. So just missed one, and it was really important for me to make multiple presentations. So this is the first follow-up cast. Second one. I'm not giving up on this fish. And then the third one.
There he is.
There we go. Picked up.
Oh, man. You're line. You're line. Oh, gosh.
All right. So this, at this point, I wouldn't say I'm excited. I've got one fish in the box, but I was excited because because there was a little bit of silver lining that I was starting to see. I really, I felt like I could catch another fish on this spinnerbait because there was multiple pockets at the same thing. They had the mud line because of the boat wakes, and they just fit they fit the situation perfectly. They had these 45-degree banks where fish could still remain in kind of deeper water and suspend, and these are obviously little spawning pockets where 1 or 2 quality fish will move up there and spawn eventually. I think they just live in these little pockets. So I was using a 6.5 to 1 gear ratio VLD10 in the 7.3 medium heavy Versa series rod and 17-pound test Seaguar Tatsu. And here's number 2. And what a really big deal was the Hayabusa trailer hook. I really think that Hayabusa makes the best trailer hooks for spinnerbaits. They've got this like rubber bead system that is phenomenal, and the hooks are really, really good. They're not like super big. They're just right. So that was the second fish and the only fish. The only other fish that I caught that day. We're gonna pause the video real quick. But yeah, that was day one. It was a big bummer. But honestly, you know, after the Harris chain having a tough tournament there, I put a lot of pressure on myself, and I was definitely feeling it this tournament, that tournament day, that first day. And you know, when you do really, really terrible in an event or a single day in an event, sometimes it kind of takes the pressure off of you. You're just like, okay, well, I sucked, so let's, you know, now we can just go fishing. And that's what it kind of did. You know, it took all the pressure that I was feeling, all that anxiety, because I always, you know, put extra pressure on myself to do well. And it, you know, doing terrible that day, actually, I think benefited me, as weird as it is to say that. But anyways, going into day two, I knew that the biggest mistake I made on day one was not sticking with my Carolina rig pattern. I went out there and fished it for maybe, you know, 30, 45 minutes. And for some reason, it just wasn't happening fast enough for me, I guess. And I decided to go adjust. And this is something that I need to get better at is, you know, I'm really good at adjusting. I'm really good at just scrapping everything and going and fishing anew. And so, but that's generally a good thing, you know, but there are times, especially in the pre-spawn and when the bite is slow, where just sticking with your guns and focusing on that one thing that you found in practice is the key. You know, just fishing grinding out for your 5 bites. That's a better strategy than trying to run around and stumble into a new pattern. So that was the mistake that I made was you know, just thinking that I could go junk fish it up and survive the day. That's the reason why I sucked so bad on that first day. So going into day two, I knew I wanted to go focus on those long tapering pea gravel points with the grass on it, and throw the Carolina rig, maybe the SMH worms, but I also knew that after what I saw in those short pockets in the final 15 minutes of day one, I knew that I wanted to do the same thing the following morning. As everybody was driving by and blasting off and muddying up those pockets, I wanted to fish those pockets. So unfortunately, I missed the first 2 or 3 fish catches of the morning on the spinnerbait bite running this pocket. It happened really quick. I caught my 3rd fish before the last boat actually drove by. And unfortunately, I looked back and I saw my GoPro was just sticking up straight towards the sky. So I didn't get any footage of those first 3 fish. So just keep that in mind. So we've already got 3 fish in the boat at this point, and we're going to press play. The biggest key to this spinnerbait bite was just slow rolling it. You know, I'm using a slow speed gear ratio, and you know, I'm trying to slow down that retrieve even more. And that is a real big key. And also a real big key is the type of pockets that we're fishing. You know, we're trying to focus on those pockets that are right on the main lake that have like maybe a creek channel swing coming into them. It's just anything that's irregular on the shoreline. They're almost even just indentions in the shoreline, not even pockets, some of these. And it just needed to have a little bit of flatter water, flatter contours in the back than, you know, the main lake side. It didn't really need to be like a big pocket. In fact, the bigger creeks were less likely to hold a fish. I forget where I got the bite on this clip. I'm just being as thorough as I can. And at this point, it felt really good to be dialed in on this bite, because the day before, obviously, I was like so far from any kind of like in the zone feeling, and so it was really good to just be back doing something that I had supreme confidence in. And you really need a lot of confidence when you're slow rolling a spinnerbait like this. You really do. I think so. I had tied on a different color, so I was primarily catching all my fish on white and chartreuse, but I did try a different, more, I think it was mouse rat color, the sling blades, for the clear water, because they weren't as muddied up as I thought that they would be. But as you're about to find out, that white and chartreuse seems to be the key. There he is.
Keeper number 2.
All right, so this was fish number 4, I believe.
I think you will be right at it.
15 and 8. Yeah. And 14 and 3/4. I hope it's 15 and 8.
I had to pull out the measuring stick for him.
Touches.
Those are not the kind you want to weigh in, but I was happy to have them, man.
You fish.
I was just excited to be getting close to a limit at this point. And again, I ended up catching my limit by 8 o'clock this day. So I went from catching 2 fish in the last 15 minutes of the first day to, you know, really just smashing on them. Catching pretty good. All right, so this is actually something that I've done quite a bit. So as I mentioned, there didn't seem to be as much disturbance in these pockets as I thought that there would be. So a lot of these, including what I just did here, you can see that boat wake. I had actually made a pass through there, you know, plowed one way and then came back and put the trolling motor down so I could throw my own boat wake into this pocket to kind of create some disturbance and hook into one of my better fish of the day. Yeah, it was a nice 3 1/4, 3 1/2, something like that. It was, you know, that's just a little trick that I've done on many occasions to, you know, just kind of, you know, mix up an area a little bit, get it,
Man, I should got that for you. No,
get the fish a little bit
My
activated.
shit was stuck in line. I was like, I gotta get a fish for him first. Go, 3 1/4.
Things have changed. Let's go.
All right, and so at this point, the sun started coming out, and the wind started kind of calming down a little bit, and I was really just running out of areas to let a spinnerbait, and I really felt like it was time to go pivot and try the Carolina rig. So at this point, I made the decision to make a run to the Carolina rig spot, the primary area that I should have stayed in the first day. And so got to work with the Carolina rig. And again, these are long tapering points. You know, easy to find them on the Navionics card. You know, all these pea gravel points had some milfoil growing on them, and some other types of grass. I'm not even sure what kind of grass they were, but there was some beautiful milfoil, and you know, but all the fish weren't just in the milfoil. A lot of the fish that I'm about to catch were just on the points themselves.
Which is how I caught him.
There we go. I can't tell you how many fish I missed this day. I probably missed 20 fish on the Carolina rig. I think they were picking up the weight. That's just what it felt like. Usually, if you miss that many fish and they're picking up the weight, though, you'll occasionally snag them. But I wasn't even snagging them in the side or anything.
I'll take care of it.
They were just letting it go. So I'm still pretty sure it was probably a weight bite. Gotta tell you, the whole time I'm doing this, I'm just thinking, like, how on earth did people fish offshore like this without anchor mode? I mean, that Motor Guide Tour Pro was really clutch, man. Just keeping me in spot so I could work it real thoroughly. Here's another fish, pretty good one. Yeah, it's a fatty, man. All these fish here were so chunky. You're gonna see how fat. Look how fat that fish is. So these fish, I think what was going on, the thing that really got me excited about this spot after catching these first two is the fact that they are so fat. So these fish are not just living in the grass. They're not just living on the top of the point. They're sliding off of the point, you know, during times of the day where there's bait fish down there, and then they'll move back up. You know, those fish aren't getting fat just from living in the grass and feeding on bluegill and the occasional shad. These fish are moving up and down those points into deeper water and feeding up. I would bet on that. Here's another quality fish. They're all just beautiful, beautiful fish.
That's 4 pounder, boss.
Yeah, hell yeah. Thanks.
Super fat and chunky, and I was really surprised when I got to weigh in and none of them had spit up, you know, a bunch of alewife or shad, which is usually when they're fat like that, they're gonna spit it up.
3.9, 3.12.
Really good fish.
You're getting there.
Oh yeah. Oh man, that gave me goosebumps. Seeing that rod just stop. And I haven't shown any of the smallmouth, but we caught a ton of smallmouth today, and actually this is one of them. This is a big smallmouth.
Damn it, then don't get
I mean, that is a giant. That's a 5.25 pounder right there, and I had to release it. It was like 20 inches, 20 3/4 inches, and they have to be 21 inches on that upper slot. So real big bummer. I let another 4 to 4.5, and then that 5 something. So that was a bummer. And we also lost another like 5 or so pounder on the spinnerbait earlier on. But this fish right here, this is going to be my last fish of the day, and this really is a huge help. And I actually thought it was a smallmouth at first, the way it was digging.
It's coming at you. Get him. Yes.
Yeah, I was really amped up at this point because I only had like 15 minutes to go to fish here,
We're working this out.
and I was getting really anxious because I was just
taking a little bit
barely
of time. We're getting
touching that 15-pound mark at this point.
good help.
I don't even think I was touching the 15-pound mark. I think it was like
He
at
said it's
14.5,
Yeah,
and this
big lord.
put me into that
mixed
like
in.
16.5 pound range, and that's where I ended up landing for the day.
Yep, that's a damn
So
big
that
upgrade.
was the final catch.
Hell,
I ended the day with 16 pounds 6 ounces,
Four.
which is a lot better than the first
Almost
day, which was
4.5.
2 for 5 something, and ended up finishing 88th out of 288. So not a great finish because I didn't get a check, but I definitely recovered a lot of good points. And so catching that big bag on the second day kept me in the top 25 in points for the Toyota series, which means that I'm still in the running. I'm still, able to really, going into the last event here on Chickamauga, have a good shot at making the championship at the end of the year. So that's the whole goal for fishing the Toyota series, is to make that championship, or at least that's one of the big goals. And so we did that. It was a little messy. It was an ugly tournament, but we survived it to a certain degree. And we learned a lot of valuable lessons. But anyways, that is my Dale Hollow tournament recap. I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions or comments, of course, drop a comment below, and make sure you guys like, share, subscribe. we're going to see you guys, obviously the videos every Monday, Tuesday, or Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but we've got the MLF Pro Circuit coming up in just a couple weeks. So stay tuned for all of that content that's going to lead up to that tournament. But anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. I'm going to see you out on the water. Take care.